Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I'm your host Scott, and back with me, as always, is my trusty co-host Dan. And we've had a fantastic few weeks of guests on this podcast with Jimmy Guy, Honey Osrin, 2 Olympic qualifiers, and we've also talked about the European Championships that are coming up later this summer and the team that has been selected for Aquatics GB, of which there are 10 pool swimmers. And on this week's podcast, we are welcoming one of those pool swimmers, Lucy Grieve.
Yeah, well, after the announcement of the small European Champs squad last week, I think it's only right that we get a swim on who will be attending the meet, and of course that is Lucy. I actually thought she swam really well at trials last month and deserves her selection to the team. So I think it's a right thing to do to get her thoughts on that, as well as other things like Stirling right now, because they're doing amazingly well. We need to talk about Stirling. And then, Europeans, and I think her journey, I think we'll probably start there.
Now, if people listened to our reaction of the European Championship squad, they would have obviously heard that we would have liked to be able to get one of Lucy or Holly McGill onto this podcast. Like Dan said, to understand what's gone right at Stirling over the last 12 months. They've got the most swimmers selected for the Olympics in 7. They've got 2 more heading to these European Championships, and Lucy Grieve is one of those. So let's jump straight into this week's podcast, hearing all about what's been going right up in Scotland. So I would like to think that most swimmers in British swimming at this point probably know who you are, Lucy. So you have come second at British Champs, but where has that journey come from to get to this point? Where has your swimming journey come? Because there's been a lot of success in the junior ranks through Scottish swimming.
Well, I'm originally from Troon, down in the west coast of Scotland, so I swam with South Ayrshire down there. That was my first club, and that was my club for, oh my goodness, I don't know, a really long time. I think I trialled out and joined when I was just turned 10, maybe, I think.
Okay.
I'm a March birthday, so I think the trials for that were April and later on in the year at that point. I think they might have changed that now, but so I did the April trials right after I turned 10. And I just loved it. I feel like my mum was a swimmer. She was on Scottish swimming training camps. She was a butterfly swimmer. So it was very important to her that my sisters and I could all swim and swim well. But I just really loved it. I think I was really competitive. I did lots of sports. But I think swimming was one I was kind of best at. I did hockey for a while, but I wasn't confrontational enough for that. That was a bit too scary. I started running away from the ball. So I realised that wasn't for me. But no, I swam with South Ayrshire till I moved away to uni at Stirling, so that would have been 8 years, I think. And I was coached by Byron and Sterica there for the most part of my journey. I did have other coaches. Irene Corson I had when I was maybe 11, 12. I think she was a really important part of my swimming journey, looking back. I mean, at the time, I absolutely thought the set she was giving me was really hideous, but I think that really helped get the kind of aerobic part that you need as a younger swimmer.
Yep.
Because I think SAST is definitely better known as a sprint club. Okay. I think there's a lot of 25 race pace. There's some sets I did at SAST, thinking back now, that I definitely could not complete now whatsoever.
Wow.
I think one of Byron's favourites that I must have done for years, maybe 2 years, was on a Wednesday night we did 3 rounds of 30-25s on 30 seconds, 100 race pace, which was just absolutely brutal. And yeah, it was really rough. It was so hard. I'm thinking about it now. When we did sets, I'm like, there's just no chance I could get away with that now. But yeah, so I raced at SAS and competed with them for, it's crazy to think about now. So I raced there for all those years and I loved it. It was a blast. The people there were so lovely, the coaches. And it was a really nice environment, I think. Everyone was really supportive there, even though it was just a local club. You know, I had Katie Robertson. She was obviously made European Juniors and World Juniors, I think, I'm pretty sure. So that was kind of who I looked up to, kind of seeing her go off these competitions. And I was like, wow, you know, you're from a local club and you're making it onto these GB teams. So I'd love to do that. And yeah, I made European Juniors with SAST 2022, I think it was, in Rome. 2022, not 2021. I get those, the COVID years all mixed up a wee bit. Yeah. But yeah, 2022. So I made European Juniors and I raced there. Loved it. That was my first time on a British team. I've been away on Scottish swimming teams. I think the first time I went away I was 15. We did a joint camp with Swim Wales, went down to Swansea. I think that was my first time going away with Scottish swimming, but I did Geneva a couple of times. But yeah, making European juniors and going to Rome was just amazing. I mean, I love the pool in Rome. I got to go back there for SAST quali last year, and I think it's maybe my favourite pool to race at, I would say.
Yeah, lots
I just
of
love it.
You won't be alone on that saying that.
Yeah, it's just lovely. I think the sun and the weather and just getting to do everything outside, so obviously we don't really get to do that here. I love. So I think that was a really nice place to have my first European juniors. And then after that, I kind of struggled the year afterwards, I think. I kind of came off the back of that and out of my last year at SAST before I moved to Stirling. And I think I was trying to balance too much. Looking back now, I was trying to balance, exams, advanced hires, and having a social life and swimming. And I think the wheels just fell off all of them looking back.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a rough year, I think, that one. I kind of, because I broke the minute for the first time in the 100 butterfly at European Juniors. And I was like, oh wow, this is great. Commonwealth Games is the next year. Like, this is really picking up momentum here. And then the year after that, it just the wheels kind of fell off a wee bit. But yeah, then I moved to Stirling, in September 2022. And I really struggled at first moving to Stirling. I think I was a lot more homesick than I thought I would be. I kind of thought I'd be great and really independent going off to uni, and this was like, it's going to be such a turning point in my life. I'd heard so many good, amazing stories about uni. I mean, I have my own amazing stories about uni now, but yeah, at the time it was just it was really daunting. And then I injured my back. This was maybe a month and a half into moving to Stirling. I injured my back in the gym quite badly, and I couldn't bend, so I couldn't swim butterfly
Oh, wow.
at all, I think. Yeah, for like a month maybe. Maybe a month, maybe a bit less than a month. But so I didn't get to do a short course season at all, 2022, I don't think. I was meant to go to the World Cup in Berlin. I had to pull out of that, and I was gutted. I was so excited for that one. I've got a real soft spot for short course racing, so that was really sad. And even Bucks that year, I didn't really do much. I think I maybe did the 50 fly and the relay. And Scottish short course, I don't think I did the 2 fly because I was like, I still can't really bend my back. So yeah, I really struggled that first semester of uni just because I couldn't really train. So I was kind of away from home, struggling a bit with that, and then just doing a lot of really hard training because my training totally changed between moving from SAST to Stirling. So I kind of training really hard and living alone really hard, and then I wasn't able to compete really, so I was just kind of sat in the flat. So I really wasn't enjoying swimming or being away at that point. But then I came back after Christmas and I kind of could train again properly. I could move. I think the time off at Christmas really helped my back to just settle down. And then went to long course Bucks and I broke 60 again. That had been the first time I think since European Juniors. I think it was a low 59 actually, if I remember right. And I was so over the moon with that. I mean, that was just, I remember afterwards, like, you'd have thought I'd have won it. I think I came third in the end, but I think I was acting as if I'd won it. I was like, this is the best. I'm so excited. And yeah, I think it's just really, really taken off from there. I mean, I love being at Stirling. I love the training here. I think it really works for me. Love the people. So yeah, I think that's quite a long roundup. Sorry, I kind of waffled on there.
No, that's helpful for us.
Well, going back to your sort of age group days, you actually got a number of Scottish age group records, especially short course. You say that you really like racing short course. Is there, or was there, any sort of pressure after hitting all those records at the age of around 12 or 13? And was that transition quite easy to do, going from age group swimming to then senior swimming?
I think for me, I would really struggle with the transition from age group to senior, just in the sense of it just fell that year when I was kind of swimming just wasn't going as well for me. But I think in a way that took the pressure off the records because I really was just trying to get back to where I was. Like okay. I'd have sold my soul, I think, at one point to go a sub 60 again in the 100 fly. Like it was sad at some points. But yeah, I think I still do love swimming short course, but I I never actually really thought about trying to get the Scottish records. For me, it was so fun racing short course. I think the first one was that 12-year-old one that I got. That was my first kind of major competition. I think I went to Scottish short course at 12, and I was only there. I was only there because they needed a fly leg in the relay. I actually wasn't meant to go, but I had obviously some individual, I think, to do it. So they just punted me into the 50 butterfly, and then I only made the final because 3 people pulled out. Like I was third reserve for the B final or something. So even I remember my mum at the time being like, "Oh, like we've not even booked spectator tickets for this session," because I was obviously 12 and no one really thought I was going to do anything. Yeah. And I was just having a blast and somehow managed to pull off that record, which I think still stands actually. I'm waiting for someone to take that one from me. But yes,
we had a little look. Yeah,
I'm waiting for someone to take that. I think that one might go soon, but no, I think so I loved it, and then for me it was kind of a game. It was like, oh well, can I take the next one? How cool would it be if I could have 12, 13, 14? I don't think I kept all of them in the end. I raced it was Anya Slessor actually. I remember we used to race all the time. It was kind of, we'd take Scottish records from each other almost. She'd take it one week and then I'd maybe race 2 weeks later and I'd take it back, and then she'd race after that and take it back. So yeah, but I think certainly senior swimming, because I've always kind of had Keanna to look up to. It was I never really was thinking about taking records before in that. It was just, like I say, trying to get as close as I could to going my PBs again.
Have you always liked having that person to race in terms of not just looking at yourself? So you say when you were trying to break the Scottish records, you had someone there alongside you going after week, and now you're at Stirling, you've got Keanna with you. And it's not like, I don't know, you don't have to entirely focus on your own swimming, if that makes sense. You can see what she's doing and it sets a target for you to aim at rather than looking at your personal bests. And because most swimmers get stuck in that plateau of just looking at what they swim.
I think so, definitely. I think training with Keanna I don't want to say unique, because I suppose I have in some other scenarios, but it's nice that we do get to train together every day and we know what the other person's doing. I suppose even in a race, that's kind of helpful because you kind of know what they're kind of going to do. You can kind of not expect it, because obviously anything can happen in a race, but you've kind of got a bit more of an idea. Like, for example, at trials in that 100 fly heat, when we were next to each other, it was lovely. I was like, well, this is almost just training again, this is great. We both know what's going to happen here. Know where we should be in relation to the other person, or so I think so. I think that's really helpful, and it can take the pressure off of just thinking about yourself all the time. Because I think definitely for me, if I trained on my own, I would get very like, oh my goodness, this is, maybe this isn't going so well today, like what's everyone else doing? But it's nice to know what other people are doing. I guess it's just being aware of what your competitors are doing helps a wee bit.
I guess it must be helpful when you're dealing with key sets. When the key sets are there and they're quite tough, obviously, and you've got someone who's doing the same sessions as you, and you can kind of effectively compare yourself a little bit. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Keanna and we do some of the same sets together, but she is definitely more 200 based than I am. I mean, some of the sets she does, I don't think I could do. I mean, Brad writes on the board and I'm sat there thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad that's you and not me. But it is nice, even just from a social point of view, it's nice that, we're there, we're doing the same set, and when it gets really rough, you are there with someone and racing someone. I mean, we get to race almost every session, which I think is great for race experience, because all our tapers and stuff, we're not always on the same thing, but it's even just parts of sets. I mean, we do speed work every Monday night, and every Monday night we go against each other, and Brad loves to make little jokes and kind of, on the wind up about the rivalry and stuff. But no, it is helpful. I think it's really good.
What are those kind of key sets that you love battling out with her? What do they look like?
Ones that we do together tend to involve like 50s, 50 pace. That tends to be the ones we do together, because she goes up to more kind of doing like reps of 200s and stuff, whereas I tend to stick to kind of doing more 50 work and maybe sometimes 100 work and 150 work, but kind of less so, because I'm not so great at that. I'm working on getting better at that. But yeah, mainly kind of work like that. Most of our key sets are kind of some fast paced work and then aerobic freestyle mixed in there. So we do a lot of those together.
And talking about Stirling as a whole, it's like I said earlier, I think Stirling is obviously going quite well at the moment. What is it like being, because you've been there now for a little bit, what's it like being part of Stirling, training there every day with swimmers like Keanna and Duncan and Katie and people like that?
Oh, it's amazing. I think I'm really grateful for the training environment that I'm in because it's just a really lovely group of people, I think, together. Through all the squads, it's just a really, really nice environment to be in. And obviously we're spending a lot of hours in this environment. So it would get really rough if it wasn't fun to be in. But no, I mean, the coaches are amazing, the facilities are great, the pool time's great, you know, we're not up too early in the morning, we're not out too late at night. And the support staff are all great. You know, if you need to see the physio, you see the physio, which is, I mean, just amazing. I never had that back at SAST. You know, I had to go up to Glasgow it was because I was in a remote place. So, you know, I'd go up to Glasgow to see the physio or stuff. But I mean, here I can get out the pool, and if I'm my back sore again, I can be seen probably that day. And, you know, very rarely it's longer than that day. But it's just really lovely to be in such an environment where everyone's so supportive and everyone's working at such a high level all the time. Like, you can really feel that everyone wants everyone to do really well, and everyone is trying to be at that very top level, which is lovely. And I think we all drag each other towards being better. You know, if you're maybe having a rough day or you're a bit tired, you know, there's 12 other people that are, you know, you'd never want to kind of moan and stuff and kind of bring the vibe down, because it's a great vibe all the time to training, I think. So yeah, I'm really grateful that I get to be there.
Is that the secret to the success? Like, the attitude of the team? Because it is a hugely successful squad with, 7 at the Olympics, 2 going to Europeans, including yourself. I mean, I'm sure everyone like listening to this wants to know what's gone right at Stirling over the past, 12 months and beyond.
I think so, yeah. I think just the culture that Brad and Steve have managed to create in the squad it's just great. Everyone's so professional all the time. No one ever is, you know, I honestly can't think of a single situation where anyone's kind of not pulled their weight or really been totally 100% committed to the team. So I think definitely, yeah, I think it's just really lovely. And like I say, I'm just so grateful that I get to work in that every day, because it makes the hard sets a lot easier. And everyone gets on really well as well. You know, I mean, Brad and Steve love to joke around, so it's really fun. It never feels too serious or too kind of like a job, if that makes any sense. It's lovely. I mean, I happily turn up there twice a day some days in the gym. It's a lovely group of people to be around.
Does it help having a blend of battle-tested swimmers, you know, your Duncans and your Kathleen's, and then blend that in with younger swimmers like yourself and Holly McGill? Does that help as well?
I think so, yeah. I think we always definitely learn a lot from the likes of Lucy and Kathleen and Duncan. We'll have we tend to have group meetings before and after big competitions, kind of like a briefing and a debriefing, and they're always really helpful with sharing anything that they kind of learned from their previous experiences. So, for example, trials. This was, for most of us, our first time going to Olympic trials with Stirling, whereas they could kind of talk about what happened last time, and even little things like first tapers. So for Howard and Holly, it was their first time kind of doing a proper taper for trials. It was the same for us last year for World's trials. And they kind of were very much like, you know, just trust the process. It's okay. You know, this is obviously our first time doing it. We do it differently here. So yeah, it's great learning from them as well. I mean, the knowledge they have is invaluable across so many areas of swimming that, yeah, it's great to be able to learn that from them.
What's your top advice been from, let's say, Duncan or Kathleen, one of them?
I think trusting the process. I think 100%
Right, okay.
That's what I've learned, because even we did my taper a bit differently for trials this year, and I think 2 weeks out I had 4 key sets, and I think I do the 2 key sets a week. So I was looking at it when it came out in the planner and I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be horrendous. But then in the end it really worked out, even though I was absolutely dying that whole week. But yeah, so I think just, you know, everybody there really knows what they're doing. I mean, as evidenced by how many amazing performances there's been from everybody this year. So just putting faith in them and it'll all work out.
Absolutely. Let's move forward then and look a little bit at trials. So your own week as a whole, you came away with a second in the 100 fly and then the 200 fly at 2:12. Were you happy with your performances that week? I think that's a fairly obvious question, but were you?
Yeah, I was really, really happy with mine. I think having the 200 on the first day was good because I get really nervous around the 200. Not even from a race placing kind of view. I genuinely get really nervous about how much it's going to hurt me, which sounds really silly, but
I don't think that's silly at all.
I think when I swam them at SAST, because it was more of a sprint-based club, every turn of fly I did was so painful because I didn't really have the training for it. So I'd kind of scared myself off them, but obviously they really helped my 100, and I'm hating them a bit less now. I'm kind of learning to love them a wee bit. But
they're going to stay in your program then?
I think so, yeah. I'm doing it at Europeans, so...
Does any swimmer enjoy a 200 fly? Like I can't
sure
remember.
Milak
I'm
does.
sure we've asked this question to Laura, and I can't remember her saying like, "Oh, I really enjoy a 200 fly."
I think Keanna quite likes them. Don't quote me on that. I think you have to ask her that, but I think she quite likes them.
I'll have to send her a message.
Sure.
Lucy's just sold us.
No, I think I am learning to love them a little bit more. I hated them when I first came to Stirling, but yeah, I think having that first was good because that was where a lot of my nerves were, and I tend to do better once I've had a swim to just kind of get used to the pool and everything. Because I'd only been to the Aquatics Centre for the Olympic trials 3 years ago now.
Yeah,
I think I just swam the
When it was
100 fly
empty.
heat, so yeah, exactly. It was totally different. So yeah, it was nice to do that and get in and just kind of sort myself out for the 100 fly. But I was really happy with that. It went a lot better than I thought it was going to go. So yeah, I was hoping to go a little bit faster in the evening, but it was, I think, a 2-second PB in the morning, so I really can't complain about that too much.
Well, the nomination times.
Sorry.
The nomination times were extremely tough. I mean, especially in that 100 fly. Does that help or hinder with motivation, knowing that the time might just be a little bit out of reach?
I think for the 100 fly, I don't want to say I didn't think anybody was going to get it because that sounds bad, but I definitely knew it was going to be a stretch for anybody to get it. So I think for me that made it more about trying to win for that relay spot was more what we thought about instead of the time, because obviously like a British record, it was going to be an amazing swim to pull that one off. So I think it was more about trying to win or be as close as I could to winning rather than focusing on that time.
Have you had a chance to look back at it? Like, is there anything that you know that you can improve on when you move forward now to Europeans?
I've watched it so many times, I can't really believe it happened.
Okay, so some swimmers hate watching their race back.
Oh no, I mean, I suppose I hate watching a bad race back, but I've watched the 200s a fair bit, and then I've watched the 100. That probably sounds terrible. I've watched myself in the 100 lots of times, but I can't really believe it happened. I was going for a 58, and I don't know, like as close to the top 3 as I could, because obviously, Laura, Harriet, and Keanna are obviously amazing. So I wasn't even really, certainly in the morning, definitely wasn't really thinking about medals at all. It was just, I'd really love to go a 58 because I've been going 59 ones for ages. I mean, Steve joked that I'd done more 59 ones than anyone he'd come across because I just seem to keep banging out 59 ones all season. So yeah, I've watched it back loads. I think just definitely thing I need to work on is being out faster. That's what we focused on a lot through my taper and through this season, is I wasn't getting out fast enough to go 58. So I think if I can just maybe get out even faster and keep working off the turn, that's definitely somewhere we focus as well. So more work off that on my underwater.
Yeah, well, I assume because you said earlier that you kind of prefer short course racing, which then I assume then you like doing the underwaters more, but then of course long course, that's less of an option for you. So do you not put too much emphasis on that in training, and it's more about, let's say, like you say, early speed or back end speed more so than anything else?
I don't think so. We do an awful lot of work on turns because for me, I know that my underwater kick is a really big strength of mine. So I try and focus on that as much as possible. Even though I've only got that one turn, it's really trying to make the most of that one turn. Went up to 9 kicks off the wall. We decided to do that, which is a bit of a lung buster. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit rough, but I think it's a big strength of mine. So we do try to work on that. And my speed around the wall, that's something I really try to work on. I'm not the best at getting around the wall quickly. But yeah, I think that's part of the reason I enjoy short course so much, is there's just more turns.
Yeah.
Does the training dynamic now change heading from trials to Europeans and Olympics at Stirling, knowing that, not in a bad way, but obviously you're training with an Olympian now in Keanna next to you? Do you push each other like even harder, knowing that there's a chance that, I don't know, or if I'm thinking about in your position, okay, I push Keanna really hard in this, I can help her prepare the best she can for the biggest stage of all, while also the benefit is, well, Europeans, I've got the chance to really show myself at an international stage? Or has the dynamic always been like, we've got to push each other for the limit?
I think we've always really worked hard on pushing each other. I think we both have strengths and weaknesses in different areas, and we both kind of have learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I think we learn a lot from each other. Or I certainly learn a lot from Keanna through lots of sets. Just across all areas of butterfly, not even necessarily in the pool. A lot of the mental game with the turn or fly that I quite struggle with, she's really helpful with that for me. But yeah, I think we just get on really well out of the pool as well, which is lovely. We're quite good friends. So, I mean, when she qualified for that turn or fly, I was tearing up walking down pool and hearing her getting interviewed. I was like, this is, I feel like a mum. This is terrible. I'm gonna cry here. But no, yeah, I think definitely. I'm so excited to see her race. I really can't wait to just set myself up on the couch and watch them all race, I suppose. Because I've always loved watching the Olympics. I mean, everyone loves to just sit and watch it all, but I think it'll be really special knowing these people and being friends with them.
Yeah, different experience now.
Because yeah, it was really emotional when Kat qualified as well. We were all in the stands tearing up for that as well. So yeah, I think anything that we can all do to help them perform the best at the Olympics, and obviously SAST quali and Europeans, wherever everyone is really trying to push everyone towards being their best.
So if that was your reaction for Kat and Keanna, what was your reaction to being selected for European champs?
Oh, I cried.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was with my mum. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it at all.
Okay.
Because I was over the moon with my PB in the 100 fly and getting a silver medal. I'd been overjoyed with that. But yeah, getting the email through was amazing. I was sat in my car, actually. I just finished an exam. I was a bit traumatized from the exam, and then that came through. So that made that day a bit better. But
I mean, yeah, you came second at a British trials. Surely you should have expected it slightly.
Yeah, I can't really believe that either. I think that's why I just keep watching the swim over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy to think. The medal still sat somewhere, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Crazy.
Am I right in thinking that this summer's going to be your first senior representation of GB? So what does that mean, I think, as a whole?
It's so exciting. I'm so excited about it. I feel like I'm collecting Europeans with juniors, under 23s, and then this is the senior one. So that's quite cool that I can say I've been to all three. But yeah, I'm so excited. I think it's just such an amazing experience. I'm so lucky to be able to have. I'll be up there racing some of the best in the world, which you don't get a chance to do that much often. And it's always lovely to have the race for GB as well. I always think that's really, really special to have that flag on your hat and your costume. And it's just a lovely thing that you can really hold on to.
What's your aim for the meet as a whole? Like you've got this first selection under your belt. You say you keep watching back the 100 fly. What's the aim now for a summer?
I mean, it feels silly to say PB again because I dropped so much in the 100 fly, but I mean, I'd love to go even faster. I think I think I'd love to just see if I can go even faster in that and just kind of soak up as much as I can from the environment, and hopefully getting to watch some amazing European swimmers in the 100 fly that I can really learn a lot from. So yeah, and just more international race experience, because I think you can never get enough of that. It's different every time. So just as much of that before, so I'm even better prepared for hopefully future senior competitions.
Touch wood.
Well, I assume the ultimate aim is to try and go sub 58. That would be obviously the dream then. And if you can try and work on in and out of your turns around the wall, and maybe that sort of first 50 that you've been talking about, maybe that's within reach?
Definitely. I mean, obviously Keanna's Scottish record is the 57.9, so that is the ultimate goal. So yeah, close to that as possible.
Just
would
keep
be
bouncing
amazing.
off each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for this summer then? Like, what's the meet prep going before you go to Belgrade? Is there any like domestic competitions you're heading to?
I think we're all going to the Adam PT meet down in London.
Okay.
I think we're all traveling down for that. I think the guys at Altitude are coming back straight away for that.
That's good. They're the sponsor of
and
this
meeting
podcast
us there,
for
and
this
we're
week,
flying down.
so-
Yes,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're training with them. Not training with them. Sorry, we're going
Racing.
down there to race, and I think that's it before I head off. I think I'm tapering after that. I think I just need to make it through the next 2 weeks, and then I've made it taper.
Well, you had a good swim at last time you raced at London, so hopefully that can bring about another sort of confidence building
fingers crossed.
race that then leads into Belgrade. That'll be obviously perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah, it should all. Hopefully, it goes that well again.
Oh, best of luck with it. Now, Lucy, you've listened to this podcast, I believe, a little bit before.
Yes.
So you might know the quickfire questions that are coming your way to end this podcast. So we'll go straight through them. What's your favourite event?
My favourite event is the 100 butterfly. Although I do love a 50 butterfly. I have a soft spot for a 50 butterfly.
I thought for a second then you were going to say the 2. I was like, hang on.
No, I don't know if we'll ever get that far.
Who's your swimming idol?
I think for me it would be Maggie McNeil or Sarah Sorstrom. I think they're just so impressive to watch across not even just the butterfly, the freestyle and the backstroke as well. So they're pretty amazing to watch.
Absolutely. What's your proudest moment in swimming so far?
I think it would have to be the silver medal at trials and getting selected for Europeans. I think that would have to be the coolest thing that's happened so far.
Nice. What's the hardest set you've ever done in training? And you've already given us one at the start.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think for me, kind of multiples of hundreds fly or 150s or kind of a turn of fly in a set. Not even just for my physical part. I sometimes have a mental block with the 2 fly. So yeah, anything involving that I find really difficult.
Yeah, fun. And final question gets to know you a little bit away from a swimming pool. If you were to go on a road trip, there's 3 spaces in the car. You can take friends, family, celebrities, anyone you want. Who would you take with you?
This is such a tough one. I've heard you guys ask people this before because I've got 2 sisters. I would definitely say would have to be in the car.
Okay.
We're joined at the hip most times I'm at home, so
So
they'd definitely be
one
in the car.
very
But
important
then,
space.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could split my parents. I think I'd maybe have to stick someone on the roof. I was thinking about this.
There's space in the
Maybe
booth,
someone
I'm
in the
sure.
footwell. Yeah, I don't know if that's cheating. I feel like that's kind of a cop-out answer, but yeah, maybe stick a sibling on the roof, and then I'll get all 4 of them there.
They can fight between themselves which one goes on. A family car is always good, and it's chosen a lot more by swimmers than you realise. Cool. So that just about rounds up this week's podcast, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with Europeans this summer. It's been great to hear a little bit of insight into what's going right at Stirling. A lot of things like everyone can see. And best of luck to you and the rest of the squad for what is a very big summer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations on that amazing weekend trials, and best of luck for Belgrade coming up.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, first of all, before we reflect on this podcast, I want to apologise to anyone who was watching visually on YouTube, of which hopefully most of our audience is, because we've been pushing the YouTube subscription as hard as possible over the last few weeks. Obviously, we appreciate if you listen audio. Like, I listen to podcast audio every week. I want to apologise because my camera and my lights in my house decided to have a fit halfway through that podcast. I lost feed at one point. My lights started flashing. It was a challenging experience, but we got to the end, and a fantastic episode with Lucy, who, she said to us after the interview she was surprised, or she felt grateful that we invited her onto this podcast. But actually, leading into trials, we saw her short course form at Scottish Winters, and she was one of the swimmers then we had circled back in December last year that were just like, you know what, keep an eye on her heading into trials. We might try and get her on before. Obviously, timings didn't quite allow for it on our end. I'm very grateful that we have gotten her on ahead of Europeans, because she's she is certainly a swimmer on the rise after, well, like a successful junior career, but even more success after moving to Stirling recently.
Yeah, I think we've circled her from, I don't know when back, but she had a good chance of getting a short course record, Scottish record for the 100 metre fly.
Yeah, it is hers.
She didn't quite get it, or she didn't quite break it at the time for the short course Scottish. But yeah, no, she is definitely one to watch out for. Again, only 20 years old, going to the European Champs, of which it seems as though you have to be under 21 to be selected by a look of things. I'm very happy that she's going. Like she said, she just wants to soak up the experience, be a sponge, racing some of the best swimmers in Europe, which obviously are some of the best swimmers in the world.
Yep.
And I think she'll do really well, actually. And I think one of the main things is that she's racing Keanna every day in training.
Yeah, that's the thing,
that can only bode well. Racing, training, she's doing everything.
That's what I heard, like, straight away, where she said we're getting that race experience in training because we're next to each other. And I know it's something that, like, you say, I need to go to an open meet for racing, but actually she's racing her main competitor in this event day in, day out, week in, week out. I know they don't quite entirely, like, side by side every day of every because Keanna is the 200 comes down to the 100. But yeah, something we didn't even mention on that podcast actually was just how close she was to actually being in the Olympic team.
Point, what was it, 3 or 4?
Point 3 or 4. She was second place in the 100 fly, and first place most likely would have gone for the medley relay. Like if you see, like Ang Harry got selected because of it, her teammate. Which is just a testament to how good of a trial she had. Like it kind of went under the radar with Keanna getting 2 firsts.
Yes.
But to be down at a 58.3, to be second in Britain, like that very much has always, like in our minds, of propulsion swimming, the 100 fly and the women's has always been get your hand on the wall first rather than the time.
And that's what she said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I asked a question like, the nomination time is so difficult. How do you approach the race when you've got to go like a massive PB, British record effectively, to get on the team? But she said that you kind of disregard it and it's all about just getting your hand on the wall and winning the race. And I think that's probably what's brought her on to that 58.3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That amazing time and I don't know, a big PB. I think she'd never gone 58 before. I can't remember now. So it's a massive PB. Yeah. So that's obviously brought on that race, that swim, as well as training with Keanna, and obviously Bradley and Steve are doing an amazing job up at Stirling to get 7 people on the plane or the train to Paris. So everything seems to be clicking for her at the moment, and hopefully it continues to click again in Belgrade in a couple of, months' time?
Yeah, just over a month, I believe, when this episode goes live.
Yeah.
So that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. A massive thank you to everyone who, like we said, week in, week out now, who is heading over to the YouTube channel, pushing that number up there. We're really excited for maybe some things that are quietly coming in the background.
Yeah.
We are closing in on our 200th episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, so hopefully there's a very special episode coming for that. Over the next few weeks, Dan might be a little bit quiet on this podcast because he's got big life events. I won't share too much details, but he will likely disappear for an episode or 2. But that's okay. I can hold the fort. That's not a problem there.
You've had to do it before, to be fair, haven't you? So, yeah.
So that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And me and Dan will be back in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.